Year 3 arrived quietly. The Eclipse did not celebrate milestones, it simply continued consuming people. The scoreboard had become terrifyingly thin. 45 contestants remained, out of 400. The names at the top had barely changed. Darius Voss remained kill leader with 88 kills. Aurora Reach sat second with 31. Kale remained third with 28. Plum and Ellie followed close behind. Everyone else existed beneath them in a blur of names, factions, deaths, and forgotten stories. The weak had already died. The unlucky had already died. What remained were survivors and monsters, sometimes both. Months passed. Challenges came and went. Sparkle Doom continued collecting victories. Aurora became increasingly popular with viewers. Ellie earned a reputation for tactical brilliance. Plum remained a crowd favorite. Mira slowly found confidence. And Kale continued visiting. Regularly, comfortably, naturally, almost like family. Almost. The thing that bothered Mira was that every visit looked identical until she paid attention. Then she realized they weren't. The first visit he admired the trophy room. The second visit he spent time near the command displays. The third visit he asked questions about the lower floors. The fourth visit he spent time near the security elevators. The fifth visit he wandered the observation deck. The sixth visit something else. The seventh something different. Always subtle, always harmless, always explainable. Mira repeatedly told herself she was imagining things. After all, the tower was beautiful. The headquarters was legendary. Everyone admired it. Even she had when she first arrived. So she ignored it. Mostly. The feeling never disappeared. But she buried it. For Aurora's sake. For the faction's sake. For her own sanity. Then Year 3 officially began, and the third annual challenge arrived. The challenge was called Cannon Fire. The name alone made contestants nervous. The explanation made them worse. 20 randomly selected contestants. 1 arena. 1 winner. No teams, no alliances. No faction protection, and above all else, mortars. Every 10 minutes, explosive shells would begin striking the battlefield. Then double again and again. Eventually, nowhere would remain safe. The Eclipse wasn't trying to force combat. It was trying to force movement. Aurora was selected. Nobody else from Sparkle Doom was. Not Plum, not Ellie, not Mira, not Pines, and surprisingly, not Kale. The arena resembled a ruined city, collapsed buildings, broken walls, destroyed roads, thousands of hiding places, at least initially. The horn sounded, 20 contestants scattered. Nobody wanted to be first. Aurora disappeared into the ruins. The first mortar landed 3 minutes later. The explosion rattled the entire arena, then another, then another. The audience quickly realized something unusual. Aurora wasn't hunting people. She wasn't chasing kills. She was surviving, adapting, watching, learning. Exactly like Kenny Reach once had. Commentators began noticing similarities. The crowd noticed too. By the halfway point, most contestants had already died, not by combat, by the challenge itself. Collapsed cover, direct impacts, bad positioning, bad luck. The arena became a graveyard. The final phase arrived. Only Aurora remained, and even then, barely. A shell struck close enough to catch her. Not enough to kill. More than enough to hurt. The explosion launched her through a wall. The audience gasped, then witnessed the move that would dominate replay footage for years. Aurora phased, her body briefly becoming intangible as debris passed harmlessly through her. An evolution of old Reach technology, a modern interpretation of Kenny's floating blade systems, not the same. Something new. Something hers. The challenge ended. Aurora was declared champion. No kills, no blood on the scoreboard, just survival. The crowd loved it. The faction loved it. The medical staff did not. Back at Reaper headquarters, Aurora collapsed into recovery. The injuries weren't fatal, but they were serious. Enough to force rest, enough to force monitoring, enough to keep her unconscious for several hours. The faction stayed nearby. Ellie reviewed challenge footage. Plum complained about challenge footage. Mira worked. Pines drank coffee. Everything felt normal. Then the call panel activated. Visitor request. Kale. Plum smiled. Speak of the devil. Nobody thought twice. Kale had been visiting for months, years almost. The tower recognized him. The faction trusted him. Aurora loved him. Permission was granted. The elevator carried him upward. He entered smiling, concerned, asking about Aurora, as anyone would. They discussed the challenge, the injuries, the scoreboard, future strategy. Time passed. Then eventually Kale looked toward the hallway. Would it be all right if I sat with her? Nobody objected. Why would they? He cared about her. The request felt natural, normal, human. Permission granted. He disappeared into Aurora's room. The door closed. Conversation resumed, mostly. Mira returned to her workstation, coincidentally positioned near Aurora's room. Or perhaps not coincidentally. Even she wasn't sure anymore. Then it happened. A notification appeared on Pines' communicator. One message, one sender, Darius Voss. Pines opened it. The color immediately drained from his face. Mira saw. Only Mira. The message was short. Aurora. Danger. Kale. For 1 second, nobody moved. Pines looked toward Aurora's room. Mira followed his gaze, and suddenly, everything made sense. The tower, the visits, the observations, the mapping, the feeling, the instinct, every piece slammed together. Mira was moving before she realized she'd stood up. The letter opener vanished from her desk. The hallway disappeared beneath her feet. The door exploded inward, and everything stopped. Kale wasn't visiting Aurora. He wasn't comforting her. He wasn't sitting beside her. He was hurting her. Aurora lay unconscious, defenseless. A cord tightened around her throat. The window behind them stood wide open. Curtains whipped violently in the evening wind. An escape route, prepared, ready. The realization hit all at once. Aurora had never been meant to wake up. Mira acted. Instinct, fear, love, loyalty, protection. Everything collided in one desperate moment. The confrontation lasted seconds. Then it was over. Kale collapsed. Aurora lived. And silence consumed the room. Moments later, the others arrived. Ellie, Plum, Pines, all of them stopping dead at the doorway. The scene explained itself. Aurora unconscious, the cord, the open window, the escape plan. Kale motionless on the floor. Mira standing frozen, shaking. Nobody spoke. Nobody needed to. The truth sat plainly in front of them. Aurora had trusted him. The faction had trusted him. All of them had. And he had betrayed every one of them. Pines immediately moved to Aurora, checking her breathing, checking her injuries, checking everything. Relief flooded the room. She was alive, unaware, but alive. That single fact stopped the situation from becoming something far worse. Hours later, security personnel removed Kale's body. The tower entered lockdown, visitor privileges suspended, security protocols increased. Nobody complained, nobody argued. The trust inside Reaper headquarters had just been shattered. Mira sat alone afterward, hands trembling, eyes red. Plum sat beside her, then Ellie, then Pines. Eventually, all three surrounded her, trying to help, trying to comfort, trying to process. Mira finally broke. What do I tell her? Nobody answered immediately. The question hurt too much. What do I tell Aurora? Her voice cracked. She loved him. The tears returned. She swallowed hard. How do I explain that? Plum wrapped an arm around her shoulders. You don't. Mira looked up. Ellie nodded. We do. The faction. Together. Pines nodded. Nobody carries this alone. Mira cried harder, not because she felt guilty, not because she regretted saving Aurora, because she knew what came next. Aurora would wake up. Aurora would learn the truth. Aurora would be hurt. And nothing could stop that. Eventually the room grew quiet. The immediate danger had passed. Only questions remained. Mira wiped her eyes, then looked toward Pines. How did you know? The old Reaper stared at the floor, thinking, remembering, then finally looked up, his voice barely above a whisper. Darius told me. Silence. Nobody moved, nobody breathed, because suddenly, the biggest mystery in the room wasn't Kale. It was why the most dangerous man left alive in the Eclipse games had just saved Aurora Reach's life. And that answer was waiting.